Great to have you back. If you're just joining us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our major stories. Police announced the arrest of 7 suspects over Thursday's robbery of 5 banks in Offa, as Kwara State government promises reward for information on the fleeing thieves. Troops of Operation Lafia Dole continued their onslaught against Boko Haram insurgents, killed 5 members of the group in Adamawa State. EFCC turns its searchlight on ministries, departments and agencies as the acting chairman says procurement fraud perpetrated by government officials is undermining the nation's development. At least 2 people killed and several injured as delivery van plows into a crowd outside a restaurant in Germany. ChannelsTV.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can see our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. And besides giving you access to news updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app has an EyeWitness feature, so you can use it to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. And here are some of the pictures you sent into our EyeWitness portal today. Our first picture is from Bali Donga local government area of Taraba State, showing an overloaded vehicle. Our EyeWitness reporter says the dangerous act has become the norm in the area and needs to be stopped. We move to Lagos State with this image from Apapa showing the environmental problems there. Our EyeWitness reporter says that while the people celebrate an end to the siege by tanker drivers, they want something done to give their area a facelift. And our last image is from Ikorodu area of still in Lagos State, showing the dilapidated state of Eita Road. Our EyeWitness reporter says the road has been in that state for a while now and it gets worse when it rains. He wants the government to come to their aid. We thank you so much for sending in those pictures, and we do encourage you to keep them coming. Now to politics now. It appears Nigeria's main opposition party, that's the People's Democratic Party, PDP, is still being haunted by its shortcomings while in power at the federal level. This indication was given in some of the speeches made by the leaders of the party who gathered in Katsina State from various parts of the country today for the Northwest Zonal Rally. While a former governor of Sokoto State, Atahiru Bafarawa, asked PDP members to genuinely make a U-turn, the governor of Gombe State, Ibrahim Dankwambo, said Nigerians must shun all forms of corrupt practices which retard the progress of any nation. Other leaders also spoke on the need for the restructuring of the country and for PDP members to close ranks and walk towards the success of the party in 2019. The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ibrahim Magu, is lamenting how fraud has been affecting the nation's development. Mr. Magu explains that his office is monitoring ministries, departments and agencies to check violation of the Procurement Act. He was speaking at a meeting in Abuja, the nation's capital.
Heads of ministries, departments and agencies at a forum to discuss procurement process in the country and find a way of addressing the challenges. Statistics from the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, shows that 60% of corruption cases in the country are procurement related, and officials at this meeting are not taking it lightly in cleansing the nation of corruption as it relates to procurement.
It is important to mention that to chief executives that parastatals and especially the accounting officers heading implementing agencies have a crucial role to play in national infrastructure development, skills development and competencies building. that are critical for the execution of transparent and efficient public procurement that guarantees good value for money.
The need for the Bureau to take the lead in the reform process while developing the kind of capacity muscles needed for the success of the reform from regular meetings of this kind is germane.
Heads of anti-corruption agencies added their voices by insisting that procurement fraud plays a major role in the nation's state of development, and they vowed to prosecute anyone caught violating the nation's procurement guidelines.
Corruption in this regard creates devastating chain reactions because the quality of goods and services procured have already been compromised at the initial stage.
It is important to note that good governance rests on accountability, and to be accountable, agencies must ensure that amounts appropriated are utilized not only by observing the extant laws and regulations, but also by ensuring that the intended projects are properly executed.
One of the objectives of this meeting is to cleanse the nation's public sector of procurement fraud. It is expected that those at the helm of affairs in procurement process will abide by the laid-down procedure to ensure transparency and accountability.
Mixed opinions have continued to trail the $1 billion approved by the presidency for military equipment. The federal government and the military have been speaking on the importance of funding, especially at this time. But some opposition state governors are already challenging the legality of the president's decision.
In December 2017, following a National Economic Council meeting, Nigerians are greeted with the news that the state governors had approved $1 billion to be drawn from the excess crude account for the procurement of equipment for the military.
The governors have given permission to the federal government to spend the sum of $1 billion in the fight of insurgency.
That revelation raised the dust in some quarters, as the federal government had earlier announced that the menace that threatened the country's peace, Boko Haram, had been technically defeated. Questions on accountability were raised. Some governors under the platform of the People's Democratic Party distanced themselves from the proposed funding, and others even demanded a fair share of the counterinsurgency money since their states contribute to the excess crude account. And while the debate continued, on Wednesday, April the 4th, 2018, during a meeting with the chiefs of armed forces and the Minister of Defense at the presidential villa in Abuja, the president approves the $1 billion to the delight of the military, which claims that the funds will be used to consolidate on the successes achieved so far in the war against insurgency.
And it means further consolidating on other areas where there are challenges, so that the troops will be able to use this equipment and operate very efficiently to be able to defeat all those criminals.
As in the past, this decision is not well received by some opposition governors. They say the president cannot unilaterally approve the release of such funding without recourse to the lawmakers, and claim the move is politically motivated.
Can the president spend $1 billion, 365 billion naira, belonging to Nigerians or the three arms of government without the approval of such states, local government, or the National Assembly?
The presidency readily defends the action.
There is no timing that is not good for security. Every time is security time. Those who are reading political meaning into it, it is just unfortunate they play politics with everything, and they will play politics with the very life of Nigerians. If they had inquired, they would have been told that the communication will soon be on the way to the National Assembly.
With the military's job clearly cut out, the queries surrounding the timing and necessity of the president's approval remain. But others also ask, will these questions negate President Buhari's good intentions in the war against terror? The coming days will determine on which side the pendulum will swing. Emana Amawe, Channels Television News.
And while we wait for the final verdict on that, let's get more perspective on the president's approval of the funds for the military, and are now being joined on the News at 10 live from our Abuja studios by legal practitioner Mr. Malaki Ugumadu. Welcome.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Now, when the idea of this $1 billion fund for the military was initially announced by the governors, some said that it did not require the approval of the federal lawmakers. But now we hear the president's letter to the National Assembly for approval is on its way. So what do you make of this?
Well, I think there are different levels to this debate. The first is to clearly accept that Nigeria has not completely exited the security challenges that it faces. And in that regard, it is a welcome development that further investment in tackling the general insecurity state in the country needed to be attended to. The other aspect of it, which has suffered some measure of ignorance, is the fact that the president, no less the executive council, is not at liberty to choose and pick how to deal with the funds of the federation, whether in the federation account or in the consolidated revenue account. Whichever one he chooses to withdraw from must have the blessing of the National Assembly, which is the legislature. Now, this is not hanging in the air. It is a constitutional requirement pursuant to Section 80, 2, 3, and 4, as well as 162 of the Constitution as amendment. And therefore, it is not within their discretion to choose or pick or to decide whether or not to approach the National Assembly. Recall that when the information came up the first time, as you earlier heard, there was no such express communication regarding the requisition to have that appropriated by the National Assembly. I have referred to the constitutional provision that makes it mandatory that for you to legitimately withdraw from any account into which the federal government resources is kept, you need the approval by way of appropriation.
Mr. Abu, some governors, if I may come in here, some governors in the main opposition party, that's the PDP, had voiced their opposition to the release of the fund. Now, if the National Assembly goes ahead to approve the president's request, do you think those governors can still be a spanner in the works legally?
Now, in that regard, I think that there's a need to draw some distinction between the express requirement of the law and the exigencies of politics. And I'm happy you categorized those showing reservations to be the opposition governors. That is understandable. That is also quite healthy in a democratic setting. But speaking specifically about the Constitution and what must obtain in a constitutional democracy, you must find that what must happen is that that account from which the president seeks to make that withdrawal is an account that belongs to the entire country, to the 3 tiers of government. And therefore, what is required is that as the president makes effort to get the approval of the National Assembly, the same must happen at the state levels. So it is not sufficient for the PDP governors or indeed any other governor in the federation to seek certain portion of this money without the corresponding approval of the respective state assemblies. So it is a wake-up call to most state assemblies that have become the upon string of the executive.
But don't you think that would take a lot of time, waiting if we have to wait for all those approvals?
Constitutional democracy is such that cannot be, circumvented, as it were. The issue of time is neither here nor there. You have seen members of the legislature take very far-reaching decisions, including passing up to 47 bills in a day. Now, when you have issues, affecting the security of the country, it will be a test on the clear understanding of the legislator to be able to deal with it, given the exigencies of the challenge. But I must make this point, and that is that, look, we understand that the military, to which this proposal has been muted, bears the major brunt of the fight against insurgency. No doubt about that. History has attested to that. However, those who are circumspect with respect to all that has gone into this security challenge in this country will tell you that, look, the police has lost as much men and officers, if not even more.
Thank you so much.
And given that they deal with the civil society, you just reported what happened in Kwara, or
yes,
in particular.
Thank
now,
you so
if you know the number of policemen...
Mr. Agumadu, I sincerely apologize, but that's all we can take at this time. Mr. Agumadu is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for speaking with us on the News at 10. And when the News at 10 returns, analysts see silver lining for Islamic bonds in Nigeria ahead of federal government sovereign sukuk listing next week. That's on Business News.